Welcome back to America's Voice Live on a Friday. Everybody and everybody, when President Trump is off from court today to see his son's graduation, everybody happy about that. Honestly, as I just got done explaining to you, it seems like this trial is absolutely dead in the water. If the jury is at all fair and honest, we'll have to see if that's the fact. Because Michael Cohen, as well as the charges against President Trump being completely made up out of thin air and Michael Cohen being awful, how is this going to end? Well, here to discuss it is criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, Trump legal surrogate, David Gelman. David, nice to see you on a Friday. Look, it's been a bad, not just week, it's been a bad couple of weeks. Look, Stormy Daniels was a terrible witness. She tried to make jokes and make light, and she was not good in the courtroom from all accounts. Awkward is a word that comes to mind. And then you've got Michael Cohen getting caught with, well, I say this, but the text messages say something different. And of course, Robert Costello just totally destroys what he's had to say. Why is Costello not on the stand? That would be my question.
He should be, and there's probably a good possibility he will be. It just won't be for the prosecutor. I would assume that the defense is going to call him as their only witness, and he's going to do what to impeach the credibility of Michael Cohen. Now, look, it's not hard to do so. In fact, all the prosecutor's witnesses have all said he's a liar for the most part. Nobody has said anything good about this man. And then you're going to have a federal prosecutor in Robert Costello, who's very well respected, never had any issues with the law, never had any issues in life in general, come up and say, hey, the prosecutors, I gave them information about Michael Cohen saying this never happened. I testified in the grand jury about this never happening. But you know what? He still is lying on the stand. If this isn't an acquittal because of that testimony and the impeachment of this, it is going to be a pure travesty and a constitutional issue altogether. It'll be overturned if it is going to be a guilty verdict. But I'm telling you this, it should never get to this. It should have never been, brought to the court to begin with, as we're well aware of.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, how many different prosecutors and agencies looked at this and said there's not a crime here, or it's past the statute of limitations, or whatever other reason they said there's nothing to pursue here, and yet somehow Alvin Bragg cobbles together Frankenstein, the legal case against Donald Trump, drags him into court, keeps him off the campaign trail, and yet it doesn't seem to matter to the people that are voting in this country. Donald Trump's still leading in a two-way race and a five-way race, leading in the swing states. And in some cases, people actually say, well, this gives him street cred, makes him real to us. He's getting abused by the system the way we get abused by the system. I mean, it actually is helping people to identify with not being treated properly. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that, isn't there?
There is. Look, the criminal justice system is not fair. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm a former prosecutor. I saw it firsthand. And as a defense attorney, I have clients that are charged when they should never be charged. In this situation, it's a little different because this is a political hit, not a bias hit or anything like that. This is purely political. So this is showing the American people, if you don't like who is in charge right now in the government and you speak out against them and you endanger them and endanger their power, you know what's going to happen? They're going to go after you. And you don't have the money that Donald Trump does. Thank God Donald Trump's a billionaire and he can afford to fight this. Because if he couldn't...
Well, and that's exactly the point that I made here. I made that exact point in this program a couple of times this week, did an entire monologue on the fact that if they can go after Donald Trump, you are the future defendant. You, Mr. and Mrs. America, are the future defendant, because if they can do this to him with his resources and come after him in such a dishonest and egregious way, then how would Mr. and Mrs. America, average people, defend themselves against this government that they go after people because they are conservative, they're Christian, they believe in America, they label them, they smear them, and then they drag them into court. This is the future for American citizens if we don't get this right. Where am I wrong?
It's like we live in the banana republic. Think about it. This is what happens in Africa and South America and in different countries that are third world. This does not happen in the United States of America. Yet it's happening before our eyes, and not just once. Donald Trump has 4 cases going on right now that are all shams. and should never be brought. But they're doing it for the reason to keep him off the campaign trail and to try to make sure that he's not the 47th president of the United States. But the good thing is the American people are seeing there's no evidence in not just this case, but any of those cases. And he's winning everything. And this is going to come back to haunt the Democrats big time when they lose in November.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, from the beginning of this case in Manhattan, this judge should not be sitting on the case. His daughter is out there fundraising off from this stuff. What world am I living in where that is okay? Where people say, oh, yeah, that's fine, don't worry about it. Where Michael Cohen is out pitching this television series called The Fixer to Netflix or anybody else who would take a look at it. They did, nobody picked it up, but he's out there pitching it. He's out on social media pitching himself as the guy to support. He's fundraising off from this. They all are. And Donald Trump, meanwhile, not allowed to speak. You can't even talk about these people, Mr. Trump, or we'll throw you in jail. It's obscene and absurd at every level, isn't it?
This is not a trial or justice. This is a reality show. That's all it is. The judge should never be the judge here. He should have recused himself in the very beginning. His daughter is a Democratic operative making millions and millions of dollars off of this case. But here's the even beauty of it. There's a law in New York, and not every state has this, but there's a law where if you are sixth removed in familial relations and you have a propriety or you have the impression that you can make money off of something like this, that judge should recuse himself. Well, his daughter is obviously, pretty damn close related to him, so he should never be on this to begin with. And now you have a DA who campaigned just for the sole reason to try to put Donald Trump in jail so he couldn't be the president. And you have a liberal jury. It makes no sense.
David, it's Friday, so why don't we just go ahead and pull out the crystal ball? I mean, what the heck? Let's prognosticate a little bit. How does it end?
All right, I'll play Nostradamus for a second. I think that there's going to be a hung jury. I really do. The judge should do a direct the jury, but that's never going to happen because obviously he's incredibly biased. But I think you've got 12 jurors, at least one of them, if not more, has to say enough is enough.
Well, there are two attorneys on the jury. We know that. There are two attorneys on the jury, and if they're honest at all, they've got to say, look, this is just not here. Anyhow, David, I got to leave it right there. Hung jury, I'll go with that. Not an acquittal because too many people hate Donald Trump too much, and they let politics get in the way of their common sense and their clear-headed thinking. But pretty good prognostication. David, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Good to see you.